offline tariff, because we recognize that while electricity is a commercial good, it is also used to improve the social well-being of society. So the first 15 units every month, they go for 250 shillings per unit. And when you do the calculations for especially our rural populace, the vulnerables, those who are living below the average income earners, they are able to access electricity for sockets, for lighting, for charging their phones, for watching television, for children to read at 10,000 shillings per month.
Despite having an annual target of 300,000 connections per annum for grid electricity, as per the 2018-2027 Electricity Connections Policy, this was suspended towards the end of 2020 when government accumulated arrears of 103.408 billion shillings, making service providers unwilling to make new connections before being settled.
Meanwhile, requests for new customer connections continued accumulating, and there was a backlog by December 7, 2020 of 200,500 applications for new electric, the ECP, the 2021, and connections have since resumed with a dual connection system where customers with the ability to pay, like I've explained, for their connections can pay in 3 days without waiting as government mobilizes additional resources.
Energy losses by Umeme, whose license expires in 2025, have been deducted from 27% in 2011 down to 14% in 2021. Government continues to mold more efficient power supply in Uganda, but it is calling on the public to avoid vandalism and power theft, for it risks lives and could lead to imprisonment if found guilty. Wadulo Makanold, UBC News in Kampala. It is becoming convenient and safe for stakeholders in the banking sector to unleash new technological products in order to satisfy their tech-savvy customers. The rapid adoption of ICTs in Uganda's financial sector has come up with unlimited opportunities as well as some challenges. Dennis Sigua reports
that there are things we don't need to compete on, and basic infrastructure, large, small, big. If we have basic infrastructure first, you save economies of scale on the core of financial services.
The fourth annual Bankers Conference is being held at a time of unprecedented challenges facing the financial sector. COVID-19 pandemic and technological advancements are cited among major catalysts of tech innovations in the financial sector.
The telecom sector and internet service sector drives connectivity. With money becoming more virtual, more mobile, more online, then you find that telecom sector and the financial services sector can't operate without each other. Then, of course, there's ancillary sectors that come along. You have the value-added services players, the aggregators, the integrators. Those basically now have come in as a way to bridge the gap between the telecom sector and the financial services sector.
This year's event focuses on the fourth industrial evolution. 4IR is mainly characterized by the fusion of the digital, biological and physical worlds, as well as the growing utilization of new technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing and advanced wireless technology. Concerns are raised on its negative impact on employment in the banking sector. As computers continue to eat into human resource space, the question to ponder on is what is the future of work?
Think outside. It's not even think outside the box anymore. Think outside the building. That's what it means. That today more than ever, what else can I use to survive? What innovations can I do in these times? And this is where technology comes. So yes, it may appear that efficiencies brought about by technology could take away jobs, but they in turn open opportunities.
These digital solutions provide not just access to the account, but it also offers payment solutions for these consumers, hence creating a platform that allows them to use that account for other services. And as such, indeed, we've seen that on a trend-wise basis that the level of dormancy indeed will reduce as access points increase.
Improvements in Uganda's and generally have been largely driven behind in several indicators essential for a successful digital revolution. Dennis Igoa for UBC Business.
Relatedly, the Uganda Bankers 2021 annual conference concluded with a resolution of strengthening cyber defense in sustaining the fourth industrial revolution. The Governor Central Bank of Kenya, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, was the keynote speaker of the bankers event that ran on the theme Bend but not Break.
Technological innovations and digital financial literacy are expected to steer development while translating into a reduction in the cost of financial services and improved efficiency. Despite the dramatic uptake of technology in this fourth industrial revolution, the trends seem to expose the financial sector to high risks of cybersecurity and money laundering.
In the region, we have also seen an upsurge in online scams, identity theft, and social engineering attacks. We must therefore reinforce our cyber defenses internally to neutralize the insider threat. Externally, as a financial sector, we must build a circle of trust, nationally and regionally and globally, to share information and coordinate our cyber responses.
So the possibilities of billions of people connected by mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge are unlimited. And these possibilities will continue to be multiplied by emerging technology breakthroughs. I dare say many of which are being developed at a conference like this, at a time like this, when we are all thinking about how can we reset our economies, how can we reset businesses, how can we rekit ourselves for a world that has fundamentally changed around us.
Regulators in the industry are faced with the task of mitigating the adverse side effects of technology without antagonizing the pace and dynamism in financial technologies.
Whatever the product or the service, our focus as regulators should be on how comprehensively identified are the risks associated with those products and services. 2, how effective or the efficacy of the risk management mechanisms that either the providers or that we put in place to ensure that those risks are mitigated.
Nowadays, what we are seeing is you have not asked for a loan from any of these small loan sharks. They just call you up and say, oh, we have a loan for you, you can apply for a loan, and all these mobile phone loans which are coming up. And our data is flying all over the place. So the issues of data security are really wanting in this country. So we need to go back to that platform. I think FITSPA, the chair of FITSPA was talking about their SOPs, and all these other bankers associations have also been talking about how to protect the data of persons. So that's also another area.
Fourth industrial revolution is changing drastically almost all facets of life. Compared to decades ago, most transactions are now electronic. Although fourth industrial revolution is boosting efficiency, it has also had its dangers, says Anne Juko, the chief executive officer, Stanbic Bank.
The fourth industrial revolution, unlike other industries, if you take from the first revolution, which was the steam engine, to the second, which was electricity, the third, which is then computer, and here the fuel is information. It's either machine to machine, machine to person, but it's information at the core of that. And how we as human beings interact with machines to create that magic, right? So the human element in everything we're doing, whether it's skills, whether it's acceptability, whether it's the fears that we have, the human element is such a big part of what we have to solution for, be it from a risk point of view or a reward point of view.
However, the Bank of Uganda Governor Professor Emmanuel Mutebire, who participated in the virtual event, urged bankers to strategize and quickly embrace e-commerce in order to provide an affordable, secure, reliable and efficient service while evading cyber threats. Abdul Nasir Lubwama, UBC Business.
Since the government made a harsh necessary decision of placing the country under the lockdown to minimize the spread of COVID-19, it appeared equivalent to a death-like sentence for many micro, small and medium enterprises across the country.
You've talked about the capacity constraints that SMEs face. That's true. SMEs struggle. And in fact, some SMEs would have collapsed even without this pandemic. That's correct. What we shouldn't allow are SMEs that have been running sound businesses to collapse because of liquidity constraints. Liquidity is just about cash flow. We are not asking for grants, we are not asking for favors, we are saying support these businesses to get through this rough patch, and then later you can kind of settle books.
Government has come up with different strategies to support many affected businesses in the economy for proper recovery from the shocks of COVID-19. However, micro, medium and small-scale sector players are dissatisfied with the interventions. To breathe a fresh life to some of the businesses that are at high risk of going under, the banking sector is compelled to design special financial products to work on the bottlenecks and support the resilience of micro businesses amidst the pandemic.
You know, a business must be able to understand its market space, its clients, at fairly granular level, so that they appreciate how to respond when a crisis like this hits. They can understand trends quickly and adjust strategy.
In crisis time like this, people talk of credit. But if you intervene, give somebody credit, somebody who is suffering, is that enough? Because he has no cash flow. The revenue is below capacity, as Mr. Walugemba said. And if you give him credit, can he prepay it? It may not be possible. So you need to blend. You may need an element of grant to support the working capital requirement in terms of expenses and other day-to-day expenses. And you also need some credit maybe for expansion purpose for the future.
The newly introduced taxes levied on the internet data are condemned, with players arguing that it impedes the development of e-commerce.
We also say that as we speak now, there's a need to not to think that it's business as usual. It is definitely not business as usual. If it's not business as usual, you cannot then come and put up new tax measures like everything is normal, because everything is abnormal. The thinking must be, how do we help businesses?
Sectoral analysis by experts reveals slightly higher resilience among agriculture and manufacturing firms compared to service sector firms, which are struggling to survive.
In our corporate news, Uganda Revenue Authority intelligence officers arrested 2 suspects with undeclared cargo. The two, Byakashaba Ruhanga Davis and Kwesiga Emmanuel, are suspected to have illegally brought into Uganda high-valued corporate pens valued at about 300 million Ugandan shillings.
We compute per pen. When you count the number of pens that are in the box, you give each one the rightful value, and we multiply through. We are yet to find the actual quantities because the team is still counting. We had only counted the boxes, but and then the rough estimate. So that's how why we say that the 300 million is a rough estimate. The right one, we shall get it later. Then, what is the effect of how much in smuggling do we see? As enforcement last year, through our interventions, using intelligence, using scanners, using relationships that we have built, we recovered 67 billion Uganda shillings. And that is what we impounded.
I think as people and as humans, definitely such people are a threat. Because we observed, if they can dare, if someone can dare, the forces, going out driving and I'm going to meet security personnel on the road, but someone says whether they are there or not, I'll still go. So he's not a usual person. This is someone who is hardened, definitely, who can drive fear into the public. But I just want to say that to encourage the public just to remain calm and just to be very, very observant and be able to detect also.
And on the continental scene, The Bank of Ghana is looking to pilot its central bank's digital currency. The success rate of the bank's digital cedi pilot would determine the next stages. We'll take a look.
Ghana's central bank says it will start with a pilot of the digital currency ECD in September. The government wants to shift the country's economy into a cashlite one. Analysts say the introduction of the digital currency can spur growth in the local economy.
In the long term, it's going to help us have a cashless society, facilitate international transaction, and then reduce cost of printing, and then ensure transparency in our financial transactions.
Ghana's local economy is largely dependent on cash, but the introduction of mobile money by telecommunications companies has been widely accepted over the last few years. The central bank says transactions in the first half of this year have hit nearly $80 billion. It believes a digital currency, when implemented, can further boost the economy. Still, analysts say more needs to be done to make it easy for Ghanaians to accept the ECD for financial services.
Infrastructure is very poor. We need to invest in infrastructure, millions of dollars. Government needs to do it. The service providers must also release funds to do it. And then the cost of internet service provision is also high. It has to come down so that everybody would have the interest in taking part or assessing it.
Analysts also want the central bank to find ways to reduce the security risks involved with transacting in electronic currencies. The central bank says the pilot phase of implementing the ECD will determine whether it's safe to release the digital currency on a broader scale for transactions. It, however, believes the ECD, when introduced, will be safer to use, unlike cryptocurrencies that are not regulated by the government.
In fact, the first thing they should ask, do we have a copyright law? Because actually, if there is no copyright legal framework, then the people who know the commerce of content are not going to create content. If there is no environment to say, okay, when we create this content, how do we protect it and how do we benefit from it? Then there is no. So everyone who is into content creation, the first thing they should ask themselves, actually, is there anything like a copyright legal framework? Are there copyright created institutions that will enable us protect this work and then also benefit from it?
Tonight, in our Sounds of Business, we take you to Mabira Forest along Jinja Highway. Located in Buyikwe district between Lugazi and Jinja, the rainforest covers about 300 square kilometers and it has been protected as a forest reserve since 1932. Enjoy. Take not for granted the easing of the lockdown. Let's keep strict SOPs as we endeavor to revive all that had been stalled. Remember, it's not about how many times you fall. It's how fast you get up that matters most in life. So be wise, stay motivated. And thank you for joining us in this episode of the Weekly Business Roundup. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Hotel. And a big shout out to Suits by John Mary. Stay tuned for the next episode, same time, same place. Good night.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Senchu points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2020.
Welcome to the origin of the National Resistance Movement and its inception from the 1960s. This documentary covers the socio-political economic transformation of Uganda and what has been achieved since 1986. Achievements of the NRM revolution.
As we are just about to celebrate the 35th victory anniversary of the National Resistance Movement, I would like to invite you to this documentary, which is about a book I wrote with Dr. Gilbert Gumoshabe in 2015 on the achievements of the NRM revolution, what the NRM has achieved from the beginning up to now,